Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right.
Hello, Fortitude audience. Thank you so much for joining us again today. My name is Heather Kittleson, and I am your host, and I am sitting here with my husband, Amos.
Hello.
Who is our co-host / the brains behind this, pretty much all the technology that happens around here.
Sometimes, not every time.
Thank the Lord for him. And we are
right back at you.
We're sitting here today with Sarah Kurtenbach, who is just delightful. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Heather and Amos. I am honored and so thrilled to be here today.
You are just fun to even look at. Like your big smile and blue eyes.
Right back at you.
So today, I just am really excited to jump into this because this is a topic that people shy away from and they don't like to talk about money or finances.
Right.
So don't shut this off yet. I promise you it is going to be delightful and wonderful because there is a big story behind what God has done in Sarah's life and where she is today. And so we met through a mutual friend, Jeff Pickett. So Shout out to Forefront Studios with Jeff Pickett. Yeah, because he's so great. And when he was working with you, shooting some videos, and he knew me through another just a line of work here in Sioux Falls, and he was like, "You two have to meet." And ever since then, I can't speak enough about you and just you and Chad and your family and what you guys represent and do. So thank you for just being the hands and feet of Christ and following what he's called you to do, Sarah.
Oh, thank you,
really
Heather.
Cool.
You know, I have a term when you meet people and you just click right away. I call them Insta besties. So I feel like you were one of my Insta besties, and Jeff just knew that we were going to totally hit it off, and he definitely was right.
He was. He was. I've enjoyed the last several years with your kids and stuff. So you have a very unique story when it comes to, because you're from here or went to school here.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of who you are today, like your family, whatever you want to share. And then let's jump into right out of college.
Yes.
Let's do that. Okay.
Perfect. So besides Jesus and my family, one of my other biggest passions in life is teaching financial literacy to girls. From a family standpoint, I'm married to a man named Chad, and he is absolutely incredible. One of the most selfless, humble men you will ever meet. We have 2 kids. We have a boy named Pierce, who's 5, and a girl named Ava, who is 3.
And you light up. They're your world.
Every parent is so biased because they're like, my child is the best, and it should be that way. Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely one of those people. I'm just like, my kids are just amazing. I love them so much. And they're also at a stage where they think I'm the coolest person ever. It won't be like that forever, right? When they turn teenagers, you guys have that. So right now, while they think no one's cooler than mommy, stronger than mommy, prettier than mommy, I'm soaking it all in.
It actually hasn't changed.
Oh, that gives me so much relief. Okay.
I would say that they're really good at hiding it. Like they'll pretend that you're dumb and all the things.
Right.
But Jacob and I just had a conversation just a couple days ago about leaving. Leaving in 2 years to Air Force. And I said, we're going to miss you. And I started to tear up a little bit. And he goes, Mom, I'm not going away forever. And so with this whole conversation, I go, are you going to miss me? And he goes, a lot.
Oh.
So it's that moment where like those simple little words, I know I'm still cool in his world.
You know, that is true because even when I think back, you know, I definitely went through a period of time when I was a teenager and in college where I was thinking, man, my parents are dumb. They don't know anything. They don't relate to me at all. But I always thought my mom was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And I've always admired her and wanted to be like her. And I've always actually wanted to marry a man like my dad because he's such an incredible leader and a solid man of God. So even during my rebellious years, I still felt that way about my parents.
Wow.
Wouldn't show it.
No, definitely not. Because that's uncool. So
it is uncool. You have moved in to one of the, like you're your own boss. You created your own thing, but why? Tell me why.
Yeah. So a little bit over a year ago, I shut down a consulting company that I had for about 7 years. That consulting company, I focused on social media ads, influencer marketing, and I was an advisor to technology startups. That was my whole background before I started that consulting company. And I loved that world. And then I really felt years prior to me shutting down that consulting company that God had something different in store for me. that even though I was good at what I did, it wasn't necessarily my purpose. It wasn't necessarily what God wanted me to do here on earth. It wasn't necessarily changing lives. It was helping companies, but it wasn't necessarily changing souls. So I was just trying to be really in tune to the Holy Spirit, where he was guiding me. And then one day I had one of my major clients who I worked with 4 days a week. So they were basically a full-time client. They had an all hands on deck meeting at noon on a Friday. And they said that effective of 5 p.m. that day, the company was going to be shut down. So exchange numbers, email addresses if you need, but this company will be no more. And I really did not see that coming. So all of a sudden I had this major client. I had equity in their company. They were doing great. And then they just imploded in one day, basically. Well, it wasn't one day, but we found out in one day. So I'm like, wow, God, okay, this is a major change for me and in my work and in my business. And what do you want me to do now? Because I got some spare time on my hands and I have some spare time in my calendar. So I really tried to just listen and press into where the Holy Spirit was guiding me. I've always had a passion for young girls, really kind of like middle school, high school, college age girls. Like I love working with those age of girls. I feel like those ages are incredibly important because this is where you start making habits for your life that you will have almost the rest of your life, good or bad, right? This is where peer pressure is significant, and not just peer pressure from friends, but peer pressure from credit card companies and other outsources like that from a financial standpoint. Girls can really set up themselves in the future to be successful, or they could be digging themselves out of a hole for years after they graduate from college. So I love that age of girls because you can do so much impact and so much good. Obviously, I love Jesus and I love faith. I love business and I love finances and talking about that. I felt like God really started giving me an idea of, Sarah, maybe one of the reasons why I placed you on this earth is so that you can teach young girls about money and how to be smart with their money, how to be wise with their money, how to start good habits now. So as they get into high school, college, out of college, they are set up financially. They're confident in their money. They know what to do with their money. And also with money being one of the number one reasons for divorce, it could help to have healthier marriages. It could help for them to have an inheritance and leave a legacy for their kids. So much of what we do is impacted with money. We literally will use money till the day we die. So we better learn to use it well. So.
And my guess is that you probably had an experience where you did not do that so well, hence why you're passionate about it today.
Everyone has a really good money story, right? So I've done things I'm really proud of. And then I've also done things where I was like, holy smokes, this is very, very bad. So I'll talk about that. So the point in my life where I was stressed about money, I feel like almost everyone has been stressed with money at least one time in their life. Mine has been multiple times, but the pivotal point for me was right after my husband and I got married. So when we got married, I was 28. And prior to that, I had been living in Atlanta and in New York City working for a Facebook technology startup company. And I had been really smart with my money at that time. My parents did an amazing job teaching me about money as a young child and growing up. So shout out to my mom and dad. This is where I really learned the impact of financial literacy. Like if you can learn about money and if you have someone teaching you, coaching you about money, you will treat money differently. I treated money differently than my friends whose parents never taught them about money. So I was really smart with my money. And then met my now husband, and he's an orthopedic surgeon. And when you go to medical school and residency, you have a lot of debt, right? You have a lot of medical school loans. And I had no idea how much medical school costs until I met him. So anyway, so then I quit my job in New York, move home, we get married, and we rolled all of our finances into one, right? So his debt became my debt, right?
Amos knows about this.
Yes, right? Yep. You absorb.
We both had debt.
Right.
We both
Two
did.
become one.
To become one. So you absorb, right? And then on top of that, we also bought a plot of land and we started building a house. And so if you added everything up, we had roughly $1 million in debt, which that number is massive, right?
It's significant.
It just
massive.
gave me goosebumps.
Chad and I, when we look back, we joke that we were hemorrhaging money. We're like, we were just hemorrhaging money at that time. And with the first year we did taxes, and I really saw line item by line item of how much debt we had and how much we were paying in interest. It made me sick to my stomach. That was the turning point for me. Yeah. That was the turning point where I was like, I don't want to live this life anymore, where so much of our money is just being paid out to loans every single month. we're seeing all this money and interest just being wasted, completely wasted, going to nothing.
Yep.
So I want to pay this off quickly. We met with our financial advisor and he helped us put together a strategy. Basically, that strategy was he automated everything for us. So all of our bills were automated. We were automating all of our investments, all of our retirement accounts. So some people will stop investing and stop the retirement accounts while they pay off debt. Ours was we didn't stop investing at that time. Also, Chad's student loan debt and our mortgage rates were low because we built our house 10 years ago. So mortgage rates are really low. So it was better for us to still invest while we paid off debt because we were making more in our investment accounts. We didn't have high interest debt. So we automated all of our investments, automated all of our retirement accounts, automated our current debt payments. And then our financial advisor said, whatever is left over is up to your discretion. I'm like, our discretion is paying off debt, baby. I want this to be zero. I'm so sick of this. So any excess money, any additional money that we made, if Chad was on call, if I made a big commission check from a client, all went to debt. And then we were able to pay that off completely in less than 6 years. So we paid off everything, including our house. Nice. And I'll tell you, that also was a turning point. When I went into the bank and wrote the last check to pay off our house in full, which was our last piece of debt, and I walked out with the receipt that said zero balance, knowing we did not owe a cent to anyone, we would not pay loan payments anymore. Everything that came into our checking account was ours to keep. It was freedom that I had never felt in my life before. And so that was also a key moment where I was like, holy smokes, this is a huge moment for us in our financial journey. Yeah.
Massive. But that is like 1% of our world.
Yeah.
I feel like everything you're explaining right now is not the way we operate, especially I think it's pretty, I don't want to ever generalize comment in the world, but in the US, I feel like there's so much debt.
Yes.
There's so much going and getting a camper, getting a boat, getting all the things, having payments. It's okay to have payments. We have enough. But then they're always like, we've said we would love to move to an acreage and build our own house, but then we'll be house poor.
Yeah.
So there's these, like, we could go make some decisions that probably wouldn't be, we're like, we have the same mentality right now. We're behind on getting things paid off and investments but we're doing it. Right.
Right.
So what's your advice for the ones who go, I'm just so far behind. I can't, like, there's no catching up. So I'm just going to continue the bad behavior, the bad practices with the finances and I can't catch up.
Yeah. One of the things that I love in regards to money and talking about money is even your biggest money mistakes can be fixed. It can all be fixed. I definitely can understand and see why people feel like I'm in this too deep. I've been doing this for too many years. There's no good getting out. I'm in poverty. I'll always be in poverty. Actually, side note, last night I was reading the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
The very last chapter talks about the mindset of poverty and what it does to you when you just constantly tell yourself it'll always be this way. I'll always have debt. My parents were poor, so I'll always be poor. We never went on vacation as a kid, so I'll never go on a vacation. Like, this mindset changes every single part of you and how you see wealth. And it's very easy to get there. So I understand and can see why people get there, but I also want people to know that anything you've done in the past can be fixed. Just like how any mistakes your parents made don't define you, any money mistakes your parents made or you've made doesn't define you. We've all made money mistakes. The richest people in the world have made money mistakes. The richest people in the world have lost millions, maybe even billions of dollars. We've all done it. So anything can be fixed with it. And it can actually be very, very simple. I think that's the other thing is money. When you look at it from a whole, it can be overwhelming because there's so many elements. You're like, okay, there's all these terms. There's IRAs, there's 401ks, there's interest, there's high interest, like there's stocks, like there's loans. This is super confusing, but it can be super, super simplified. I think if people have the opportunity to sit down with a financial advisor, even if you can't afford to have one, like manage your portfolio, you can meet with one for an hour and they can put together a strategy and a plan for you to execute. And then maybe you meet with them quarterly or once every 6 months. But having an expert to really put together a very simplified plan and then you act on that plan will give you so much confidence to be able to move on. But I just want people to know it can be fixed. It doesn't matter what you've done. Actually, you can fix any impact that you've had with your money.
What are some of those steps that planner would do that people would probably find that they didn't expect? You know what I mean? Like they kind of go, well, I've got a budget. I think I've got my heads wrapped around it. Still not working. What are the things that people can expect that they wouldn't normally expect?
Yeah. I mean, obviously every single case is different. I think when you look at your financial strategy and your financial plan, first of all, if you have debt, you really have to look at, okay, which debt is high interest debt, which always is credit cards. Credit cards are so bad. Oh my gosh. If you have credit card debt, that's probably one of the first things that you should pay off as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's just going to keep sinking you over and over and over again.
That's where there's a funny story.
Oh,
can I shoot it in here right now?
Please.
Since you said credit card debt?
Yeah.
So when I went to college at Mankato State, they're out on the walkways through all the buildings, these different credit cards, and they want to give you a free t-shirt. So I wanted every single free t-shirt. So I signed up for every single credit card.
Right.
And when we met, I had probably 2 or 3 of them still left. And I'm 30 when we met, 31. And I'm so grateful for the financial backing, that the education that Amos, he just has a learned spirit. So he was the knowledge on all of the things. And he was like, we are chunking this away.
Yeah.
When you make a commission check, it is all going towards this and this. And I'm like, oh. I'm going to be like, no, you got to put at least 2,000 of that like in savings, because we need it just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just chunked away, and it felt so good.
Yes.
Felt so good. Like we have 0 credit card.
There's some things that we did that were really weird that didn't make sense at the time, like selling your washer and dryer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
All my furniture.
For pennies on the dollar. And like something that costs you $1,000, we sold it for $250.
Mm-hmm.
And that financially, that doesn't make sense. Psychologically, though, it had a huge impact.
Yes.
You can't always just look at the numbers, can you, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to think about the behavior and the psychology behind this.
Mm-hmm.
Selling your motorcycle.
I was tearing up.
That was hard.
Like
I
my
know.
motorcycle. I would go out in the garage and I would rev it up because we were having kids. So I wasn't able to get out and drive it and ride it as much. And so he's like, we got to sell it. And I'm like, why?
But fast forward now, about a decade later, now you get to stay at home because we're not shackled by this debt, because of the hard decisions like selling your motorcycle. That sucked. That was really hard.
But we'll get another.
Even selling your washer and
it's not
dryer
forever.
for pennies on the dollar. That was hard, but it got us to where we are today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. I love that you said that, Amos, because that's especially one of the things that I want young girls to understand is literally things that you do when you were in your teens and early 20s. And I'm not talking major things. I'm talking if you invest $5 a day or I have a whole chart where it shows a girl who at the age of 19 to the age of 26 invested $5.50 a day. I feel like when you break it down like that, it's more doable.
Oh yeah.
Because that comes out to being $2,000 a year. I think as a young girl, if you look at $2,000 a year, you're like, $2,000? I could never afford that. But now if you start thinking, if I work a couple extra hours at a part-time job, if I babysit one night a week, if I do these things to invest $5.50 a day, I think I could do that. If a girl does that from the ages of 19 to 26 and then never touches that investment account again, by the time she's 65 at an average return rate of 10%, which is typically what the S&P 500 gets, she would have over $1 million in that account from an original investment of just $16,000. And I know that that's true because when I was about 22 years old, I opened my very first investment account when I lived in Atlanta. So at that time, I had no debt because I had paid for college in cash. And I had an emergency fund and I was starting to make income from my first job. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to start investing. So I met with my good friend who is an investment advisor in Atlanta, and he started an investment account for me. I invested in that account from the age of 22 to 28. At 28 was when I got married.
Okay.
So then all I did was I added Chad's name to that account, and then him and I opened up separate joint investment accounts together. And I never touched my personal investment account again that I started in my 20s, okay? So never touched it again, never put a dime in it again. On average, that account makes anywhere from about $8,000 to $11,000 per month in that investment account. And it was all from what I did during those 6 years when I was in my 20s. So when you said now we have the ability for Heather to be like a stay-at-home mom, think about this. If you're a girl and if you start in your teens, you'll make even more because there'll be more years of compound interest. So as a young girl, if you invest $5.50 a day for a couple years, 3 to 7, 8 years, now when you get older, you actually do have the option and the freedom to be a stay-at-home mom if you want. and you still bring an income into the family.
Yeah.
Or you could work part-time, or you could start a business.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a recurring revenue of $10,000, maybe you could take the risk and start a business.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do a big trip as a family. Maybe you could retire early. Just the options are endless.
That's the biggest piece.
That's the biggest piece is the options. You actually have options and choices in your life now.
Yes. That is by far the most beautiful thing when it comes to finances. Is it's not about having a huge amount. It's not about that. It's about being smart so that you have just enough.
Yes.
So that you can make choices like we did.
Yes.
I walked away from a lucrative, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I always got to
bravo.
Thank you.
Good word.
Job that I loved.
Yeah.
But I wanted, and we knew in our heart, like to walk away from a decent salary was like, But we're in a place we can do that.
Yes.
And we can still have
every
choices.
Penny. Worth every penny.
Yeah. It's not easy.
Yes.
Mentally, it's for me, I've worked my entire life.
Yeah.
But paycheck to paycheck is the worst way to live.
Yes. Rachel Cruz, Dave Ramsey's daughter, just yesterday, she had an Instagram reel. And she said that right now in America, it's either 42% or 47%, one of those percentages. Okay, so 42 to 40% of people in America who make $125,000 to $250,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. And you're like, geez, man, if you're making over 6 figures, you think you'd have some extra funds.
Yeah.
Right? You think you'd be able to do a couple more cool things, but the average American doesn't. And it really comes down to choices. But like what we talked about earlier, all those choices could be changed. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You just make some changes.
Can you give some examples? What are the things that could keep a family of 5 or 6 who's making $120,000, $150,000 a year combined? What are the things that's keeping them shackled?
Yeah, I think definitely one of them is when you said house poor. Not everybody, but I think there's a decent amount of people that are kind of house poor because it's also... I don't know about you guys, but Chad and I have talked about this where growing up, we live in a bigger home than we ever were raised in. We actually live in a bigger home than our parents, than our grandparents. It's like every generation, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you see your friends doing that as well too. You're like, holy smokes. So I think that's one of the biggest things is being house poor. I think one of the other ones could actually be just little expenses that all rack up. And also, there is data that shows that the new technology of just tapping your debit card or tapping your credit card increases your spending habits. One of my personal friends in New York, he just told me this a couple months ago, but he has racked up over $42,000 in credit card debt because of the tapping. It was almost like he couldn't control himself. And for him, it was like monopoly money. So even some technologies like this, if you just tap, 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 tap everywhere you go, and you don't think about it. And then at the end of the month, you look at your bill and you're like, $5,000. Like, where did this come from? Yeah, exactly. So it's just really narrowing down exactly what your budget is. And if the tapping is too easy for you to do, then you have to create boundaries and barriers around that. Maybe you do the envelope system, like what Dave Ramsey says. Maybe you have an accountability partner. You have to figure out what works for you. But I think the house poor and then all the additional expenditures that are really easy to get can make people just go over their budget really simply.
Online shopping, Amazon.
Yes.
Oh man, just click, click, click. And even our kids know how to do that.
Yeah.
Like that's scary.
Yeah.
One of the things we've done is we've got all of our finances separated into 6 bank accounts.
Cool.
I think personal bank accounts.
Yeah.
And so all the monthly recurrence, there's one that's called MFR, monthly fixed recurring. We know what that is.
Yeah.
Every month we fund that out of every paycheck. And so that, just doing that alone took a lot of our stress out because we knew that every month those would get paid.
Yeah.
That's a no touch. We never draw from that. Oops, the other ones are out. We draw from that because that's got a fixed amount of funding
right,
and a fixed amount of draw. If you overdraw, it's going to get overdrawn. Right. And so just that simple separation of here's one that's monthly, we call it monthly variables.
Yep.
And then that's our food and gas. And when that runs out, it's out.
Yeah.
It's gone. Like we got to stop spending. We're going to figure out where it's going to come from. And it can't come from MFR because MFR is net zero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's been huge in our family.
Yeah. That's really smart.
And I will also say, because I grew up where it was paycheck to paycheck. My parents were such hard workers. But I always heard we don't have it. We don't have it. We don't have enough. We don't it's not going to be like, you can't get this because we don't have the money for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised in the mindset of scarcity.
Yes. Almost like the poverty mindset.
Yes.
Yeah. The scarcity
Yep.
mindset. Yep.
And still today have it, working through it.
Yeah.
But I've said to Amos, like, when the word budget, I was like upchuck.
It really sounds like it's not very fun.
Oh,
you're like, this is torture.
And yet once we got it, and like, he, as the leader of our household and the finances and stuff, I said, like, we know each other's strengths. So the fact that he took the finances and said, I'm going to get it all in a budget. And it was pulling teeth to get me to sit down with him, because I just didn't. I'm like, I'm so scared of money.
Yeah.
I don't want to see what we don't have, like years ago. And so seeing it, watching it, looking, like, the visibility of it has given me the biggest peace in my heart.
Yeah.
Because there's no question about what's there, where it's going, or any of that, like so it's been a beautiful thing. So I can just highly encourage anyone who's listening. Like, if you're scared of budget, if you really don't have enough money, you need to see where it's going, dollar for dollar, and start to change your behaviors. Like you said, the behavior piece is like, don't say, oh, well, we'll figure it out next week. Mm-hmm. We can spend it now and we'll figure it out next week. Like when people come back from vacation in debt. Yeah. We budget vacation. Yeah. There are times where, like, the unseen death in the family that you have to travel or things like that, right. But it's like, I just love it. Yeah. I love being able to see and know where it's coming from.
It brings you so much freedom to be able to see exactly how much you're making, exactly how much you're spending, exactly how much you'll have left over, and also where you can make changes if you don't like what you see. Yeah. And if you don't know how to make the changes, that's when you can meet with a financial advisor or someone who knows money. Something that I recommend girls do is I definitely teach girls how to budget, right? And I've actually gotten a lot of feedback from girls where they're like, you have actually made budgeting fun. Yeah. Like now I feel like I actually know how to do it. And this actually looks kind of fun.
Is that on paper? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it an app?
So kind of what I recommend I tell girls, you can choose the route that you go. When it comes to high school, I feel like their expenditures are so simple. They could just write it down. And you guys have probably heard like the power of also like writing down your notes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. So I kind of recommend that they write it down. And then when it comes to college girls, I have a whole spreadsheet I created for them. If they'd rather do a budget, an app, I have app recommendations for them to do too. Okay. But when it comes to starting their budget for the first time, one of the things I recommend is to actually have someone sit in with you while you do a budget for the first 3 to 6 months. If this is your first time doing it, whether it's your mom, your dad, an aunt, an uncle, a mentor, a teacher, someone who just understands money and has your best interests at heart, because they'll be able to show you maybe things that you're missing, things that you're forgetting, where things could be changed. Then after you do it for 3 to 6 months, you probably can do it on your own. Yeah. And then as you grow up in your life, now all of a sudden, whoa, I want to buy a house, or I need to buy a car, or what about this for an investment, or I have this job change. That's when you can also bring in another expert if you need to. But budgeting can be actually very fun and very simple, and it brings so much freedom.
It does. Yeah. The joy of going, oh, after we've plugged in all the numbers, we're only at 90%. Mm-hmm. So where can we put the other 10%?
Exactly.
Do we treat ourselves, or does it go into an investment? Does it? Yeah. So what I'm so excited about, Sarah, is you are one of the speakers for our very first event, I Am Fortified. Yes. And it's coming up. We're only like 6 weeks away. And when you started to share with me what you are going to share in this event, if you're just tuning in to Fortitude for the first time and listening to this episode, it is an event for moms and daughters. It's for all women of all ages, 10 years and older, but it's specific to the young girls and the mamas, and how we can just start to prepare them to know better so they can do better in life. And it comes down to finances. It comes down to social media. It comes down to understanding where their identity comes from. And every single thing we're going to talk about is about biblical truth. Right. So that these girls and the moms who maybe don't know better yet, even in their adult life, because I didn't know until my adult life, until I started seeking it out. So bringing you in, I know like you'll hear people not get excited about financial stuff, but that's not exactly what you are speaking at a soul level to these girls. And so can you share a little bit about, as the speaker on stage, pouring your heart out into these beautiful young girls. Like, what are you going to talk about?
Yes. It ties back into when you were just discussing how you feel like you grew up with a scarcity mindset, and how we were just saying a scarcity mindset, a mindset of poverty can actually be incredibly detrimental to you, not just to your finances, but also just to how you live your life, how you view things in the world. That's what I'm really going to be hitting in on.
Okay.
The main goal and the main concept I'm going to be talking to girls and moms about is dreaming big, massive financial dreams that can be blessed by God.
That's great.
Because I believe that if you want to do more in this world, it's okay to have more. I believe that with God, you are enough. God also wants you to have enough money.
Yeah.
So I'm really going to be hitting on that. So I'm going to be challenging and encouraging and teaching girls how to get your mind and your soul and your heart and your body in a place where you can dream big, big, massive dreams. Because I would love to see girls walking out of here thinking, wow, maybe I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe I shouldn't just pray for our needs to be met. Because if you pray for your needs to be met, I understand that's a very humble prayer. You feel like maybe you should pray that, but that's a paycheck to paycheck prayer if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So what are things that we can think, believe, and pray so that we can be women and the next generation of girls who dream big things, and God can come swooping in and bless it massively.
Yeah.
It's true whether it's $1 or $1 million. As people of faith, we believe it's God's money.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So as long as that doesn't become an idol of ours and we use it for things that are just out of our sinful nature, the amount doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Right? It's still his money. We get to give. It gets to be passed through basically for us. Is that
100%? I'm actually going to hit on that at the very beginning too, because as we know, God's the creator of everything. He is the creator of all things, which means he also created money. And when he created Adam and Eve, he made them in the world to be the managers of this world, which also means we are to be the managers of money, and we are to manage it well. God created everything in this world for success. That means you, Heather. That means you, Amos. That means me. That means everyone listening. That means all the girls there. He also created you to have success in your money. So we'll start there, and we're going to talk about dreaming big. I'm so excited.
I am too.
I'm reading this book called The New Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Wow, I've never heard of that.
Really fascinating.
That sounds incredible.
It's a little bit like American imperialism is talkked about in this.
Yeah.
And like how it could be a negative effect on the rest of the world. So it's a little bit of a double-sided story where it learns about some of the more like things Americans are doing in the world, but also highlights how much debt is used to shackle other countries and ourselves through consumerism.
Yes.
So it's not just on an individual scale, that is used on an international basis for control.
Totally.
Isn't that right? What are some of the things that in our culture we are exposed to every day that propagates that agenda?
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. Okay, also just talking about the control. One of the things that really lit a fire in me, this was before I started building Move Her Money, before I started teaching financial literacy for girls. I had lunch with my dad, and I was just telling him what God had put in my heart and the ideas that I had. And my dad goes, well, Sarah, whoever controls your money controls you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, thinking of all of these girls and women who are being controlled by, it could be a credit card company, a financial institution, their landlord, their boss, a toxic man that they can't afford to leave. I mean, if you think about all of these ways and areas that women are being controlled, that comes down to money, that lit a fire in me, because I'm like, wow, now if we can teach girls at a younger age how to control their own money, think of all the additional freedoms that they'll have now.
Yeah.
Because they can control their own destiny over their own life. And they don't have, if their boss is really toxic, they can leave. They don't have to stay because they just have to make ends meet because they're living paycheck to paycheck. Going back to your question then, Amos, and I'm going to be talking about just young girls right now. I definitely think that one of the things that is pressuring young girls to spend a lot of money are things that you see on social media and fast fashion. So fast fashion is becoming this huge ordeal because it's companies like Temu and Shein that in essence pressure girls, almost manipulate girls into buying things that will last 3 to 6 months. And there's a lot of issues with that because number one, girls are spending so much money on all these things to keep up with all these trends, to do and wear things that their friends are doing. These companies have all of these insane marketing tactics. Actually, Shein is getting in big trouble with all of Europe for their marketing tactics that go against their policies. So they're doing all these insane marketing tactics. And then also now there's so much waste in the world.
Overconsumption.
Overconsumption. I have some friends where that is what God created them to do, is to like bring light to this area and help decrease fast fashion. But I think that's one thing like with girls that's really hard for them to do because you almost look at it, you're like, well, this shirt's $5.
Yep.
Not that big of a deal. I'll buy $5. But what we just talked about earlier too, $5 a day in an investment account versus $5 a day spending on a shirt from Shein makes $1 million difference in your life, really. So I think that's one.
Guilty.
Yeah, right.
I'm guilty.
Oh,
like you see it, I'm like, oh, that dress. Oh, that's only 12. Oh, it's only 13. I have a budget for clothing.
It's so
might as well spend it.
Yes. I have not done this, but I like the idea of this. I heard a financial influencer talk about how they invested money into a capsule wardrobe. So these are maybe 10 to 20 pieces of clothes, a mixture of shorts, pants, shirts, jackets, all that stuff that have literally been shown to be timeless. And then they invest into a higher end so it doesn't wear out right away. So they've done this 5, 10, 15 years ago, and those clothes are still in because they're timeless. They can still wear them because it's just,
good quality.
Good quality. And now they're not wasting money on fast fashion. And so they're reducing waste in the world. I was like, man, I need a capsule wardrobe.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's really cool.
That's me in my black shirts, honey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you said, made me look
You're like
older.
Steve Jobs.
Exactly.
It takes that decision out of the morning. I don't
Totally.
have to think about what to wear. Black shirt, easy.
Yeah.
I find myself every morning going to my closet loaded with stuff, getting mad.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the other piece is that there's a mindset that Amos just touched on that it's like you have so much more time for the things that really matter when you do things smarter.
Yes. Exactly.
It's like, oh, dang it, Amos.
Exactly.
Sorry, not sorry. What do you want me to say?
You're just so smart, Amos.
I have to he gives himself more time to deal with me. That's the thing.
It all works out then.
And it's my honor.
I think the other thing too, going back to what's really hitting and penetrating girls, is credit cards. Yeah. And I talk about this a lot, and it's not because credit card companies are evil, though some people might say they are. They're just smart. Mm-hmm. They're super duper smart. And they know a couple things. Number one, they know they have the data that whatever credit card company you get your first credit card from, you're going to be loyal to that company the rest of your life. So Visa wants to be your first. MasterCard wants to be your first. Just like how we'll all remember our first kiss, we'll always remember our first card. Mm-hmm. So their marketing tactics is we want to be your first because then you'll keep us the rest of your life. The other thing is credit card companies weren't made to help you. They were made so that you make a mistake because that's when they make money. They're all about wanting people to make a mistake. And they create their fees, they create their interest rates, everything around that. And then what's difficult is when a girl graduates from high school and goes to college, they're everywhere. So credit card companies' number one target is teenagers and college kids because of all these things. They can manipulate them more. They want to be there first. They can have super high interest rates. Younger kids are more likely to make mistakes. But then sometimes they'll be like, oh, but we're your emergency card. Yep. Like, hey, mom and dad, this will give you comfort knowing that your child has this beautiful Visa credit card just for emergencies. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's not an emergency. No. That is to have your child make a mistake. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's the other thing that girls could get in trouble in early. And then the high interest debt will keep them in trouble for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And the number one reason why young adults drop out of college is because of financial reasons. It's not academic reasons. It's not health reasons. It's not personal reasons. It's not family reasons. It's financial reasons, mainly because of debt. and that they can't afford it anymore.
I wonder if you can offer some practical advice, asking for a friend here.
Yeah.
His
name's Bob.
Yeah.
That's for Bob.
Their
What's
names
up, Bob?
are Honey and Andy. And so let's say you've got young kids and it's so normal for your friends to be friends online, right?
Yeah.
For example, Roblox. And we have our little 10-year-old who wants to play Roblox, and that's how she plays with her friends in the mornings.
Right.
And we feel the pressure to let her do that. We also want to say, no, you need to just go hang out with your friends. Because I know that Roblox has little embedded things in there.
Right.
And it's the slow drip over time that you don't expect. Next thing you know, a visa is normalized and it's okay. So you get to college and you go through exactly what you're saying.
Right.
So it starts now, doesn't it? Because I guarantee there's little stores in there she's using a card to pay with, and it's being made okay. Yet she's on there with her friends, right? And so our heart starts to pull in our heartstrings.
Yeah.
Speaking to that, because I know we're not the only ones. I mean, our friends.
Yeah.
Not the only ones.
Yeah,
Bob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and so the name is Heather. How can Heather help direct our children?
It's both of us because it's in our living room and we watch her, but it's a hard thing.
Yeah. That's really tough. And I feel like I'm not an expert in that because my kids aren't there yet. Like our oldest is 5. So we're not there yet. However, I know quite a bit about Roblox because one of my past clients was a Twitch influencer company and we would do a lot of stuff with Roblox. So I actually learned a lot about Roblox, the good and the bad, because there's both. As in everything, there's good and there's bad, right? Yep. So there can be really great educational things. There can be really scary things. I feel like as a parent, some of the best things that you can do is when it comes to Roblox to help teach your child that this is entertainment purposes only. This is not the real world. A lot of kids they like Roblox because it's more entertaining than real life sometimes, right? And this is why kids also really love video games because it's more entertaining than real life. And this is also why young men love porn. Yeah. Because it's more entertaining than real life. Yeah. But it's not actually real. Yeah. Right? Yeah. In porn, it's actors and it's people being filmed. They're literally actors. Yeah. And then when it comes to Roblox, this is literally complete code. Yeah. That's all code. Not real. And so I feel like as a parent, that's one of just like the most important things that you can do. And then also maybe telling them that like in Roblox, if there's little ways that you can like go into a store and like buy things like that, actually some of the beneficial things, maybe that it gives them some experience going into stores, but also telling them, like if you would use this and swipe this in Roblox, that actually would be coming out of a bank account in real life. A lot of kids look at like these plastic cards that we have and they think it's just free money. They're like, oh, you go into the bank and you come out with cash or you swipe it at Walmart, you just get all this stuff for free. And even my kids, Pierce and Eve, I tell them right now, like almost every time I use my card with them, I'm like, and now money came out of mommy and daddy's bank account. This is attached to our bank account. This wasn't free money. Money came out of our bank accounts. We have less in our bank account now because I did this. So I feel like those are just some things. And again, maybe we can rehash this when Pierce gets to be 10 and he's on Roblox too, because I might have some different things to say then.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and I wanted to just quickly, can you explain your program?
Yes.
Because I saw you at coffee shops for about two years straight, Sarah. And you were telling me about that. You were like, I am building a platform for young girls to get educated on finances. Yeah. So can you give me a couple minutes on just what that looks like?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So the company that I built is called Move Her Money, and it's all digital courses, curriculum, and programs to teach girls about finances. So there's a couple key programs that I have. I have one program just to teach girls about debt. I have one program just to teach girls about budgeting. I have one program just to teach girls about wealth building, which is budgeting, saving, investing, and goal setting. And then my major program is all of that plus more. So I'll talk about taxes. I'll talk about crypto. I'll talk about comparison, all these other things too.
Crypto.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I mainly tell girls, probably don't dabble in that, sister. Yeah. It's too variable unknown. Like your money should probably not be spent on here yet. But I update it constantly too. So actually just this week, I was shooting like 4 different lessons to really hone in on high yield savings accounts, more things on investing. I literally show girls step by step how I set up an investment account in Charles Schwab if they were to do that on their own. I basically just give girls options. And then I tell them, you also need to choose what works best for you and maybe work with like an advisor or one of your parents to figure that out. So that is what I do. And then parents can either buy it for their girl individually. And then I'm also working with what will hopefully become really fun partnerships with some organizations who have a large quantity of girls. So we can get into the hand of more girls, start teaching more girls about money at a young age.
And what's your target age range?
My target age range is about middle school through 24. So kind of middle school until like right out of college, maybe a couple years out of college.
Okay.
But I've had women up to age 50 take my courses. Cool. And it's like you mentioned earlier, Heather, you're like, my parents never taught me. So many women say that. So many women have told me my parents never taught me. So what I tell them is, number one, it's never, ever, ever too late for learn.
It's not.
Just because you're taking a course created for college girls, there's no shame in that, sister. Actually, you should applaud yourself that you are learning now. And also you now have the ability to change it so your daughter doesn't say that.
Yes.
So your daughter doesn't say, well, I don't know anything about money because my parents never taught me. You could change that. And what a beautiful thing.
It's a huge
like,
gift.
Isn't that so incredible? We have the ability to change how our children are raised because of things we learned either the right way or the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
What's the website?
The website is moveher.money. Moveher.money.
Well, I'm excited to have all of our girls go through the course.
Yes.
And I know that at our event, you are also donating a course.
Yes.
Right?
A full course, everything, including the crypto and the taxes.
Yeah.
Your girl will learn everything.
So would you mind just throwing out a price of what that looks like?
Yes, absolutely. So the entire course is $397. So someone at the event will get almost a $400 package. And then my budgeting course is $47. And the debt and wealth building courses are $97. So for literally under $100, you could teach your girl how to start investing in her teens and 20s so she could be a millionaire someday.
Oh, man.
There's massive ROI.
Yeah.
Right?
Huge.
Big ROI.
Huge. Yeah,
thank you for creating that.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for taking the time to follow what God put on your heart to provide this information for young girls and for parents like us who, like, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
So why not utilize something that someone's already done? You don't have to recreate or try to figure it out. Like, you can tapping into the knowledge that and all of the stuff that you've gathered it all.
Yes.
You're out researching, you're gathering all this information to tie it into a video to teach.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
My biggest thing is I want to walk alongside parents. And also I want parents to know, even if you feel like you are not adequate enough to teach your child about money, there is no shame in that.
Yeah.
Because think about it this way. If your child is in ballet, gymnastics, volleyball, basketball, if they're coding, if they're painting, how many of us are actually adequate enough to be our son's football coach? I know I'm not.
Yeah.
That's why I sent him somewhere to have a football coach. So it's okay for your daughter to have a money coach, to take money courses. I actually think it's one of the best investments you can make in your daughter besides investing Jesus Christ into her heart, right?
Aww.
That's number one.
Mic
and this
drop.
is another good one.
On that note, that is perfect and done. That was beautiful. Say it one more time.
Oh, that one of the best investments you can make in your daughter is to have her learn about money besides investing Jesus Christ in her heart, because that is always number one.
It is. It is, because then she
good.
knows where her the source comes from.
That's right.
Well, thank you. I cannot wait to hear you just pour into the hearts on September 7th. If you are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, please go out to our Instagram page or our Fortitude page, and you will find tons of social media out there talking about the event that's coming up in 6 weeks. And get registered as soon as you can, because we're already almost half sold out.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Sarah. All your knowledge, all your energy, just the joy and the light that you bring into a room, into all the people's lives. It's just a beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for listening. We want to change lives through this podcast. And if you want to support this podcast or our guests, please see the links below for our Patreon and giving links.
And like and subscribe, and also share our podcast as much as possible. Thank you.